Hello and welcome to another episode of this thing I call Chosen Idea. I'm doing a bit of a vlogging test. Normally when I'm doing something like this, I'm using a gimbal plus Catalyst browse to stabilize in post. This time I'm going to see if I can maybe just get away with Catalyst browse because we're going on vacation soon, and I thought there might be some instances where I don't want to take out a gimbal. Anyway, to do this, you need a pretty high shutter speed because you don't want motion blur when you're stabilizing in post. So I'm shooting 1/500, which means no ND filter required either. And but what is required is a wide-angle lens, which brings me to the reason I'm doing this video, is to talk about this lens. A lot of lenses have come out since this lens. I keep coming back to this one for a few reasons. One of which being it's lightweight, which makes it great for this sort of thing, and obviously great for travel as well. Anyways, let's get back to the studio and see how this looks. Okay, bye. Well, as promised, here I am back inside. That little test that I shot was on my lunch hour, which was quite a few hours ago. We're into the evening now. I have a day job, which means I don't have a ton of time to do this sort of thing. So when I got a break in the rain, because it was raining all morning, when it stopped, I ran outside with the microphone on my camera and did that test. It looks like I was shaking around quite a bit. I took a quick look at the clip that I shot, and I don't know whether Catalyst Browse is going to be able to salvage it or not, but we will see. Because my head was definitely getting pretty close to the frame in that shot. I was obviously getting lazier and lazier as the shot progressed because the camera was getting closer and closer to me. Obviously, it's a lot harder to hold the camera far away, even though I do have a pretty light setup. It is harder to hold the camera further away than bring it closer in, and the camera's getting closer and closer as I'm talking, so and I'm shaking around, so hopefully there is enough that I can crop to stabilize that shot. Now, the shakier your footage is, the more you have to crop in, right? And that's why you want to shoot with a wide-angle lens when you're doing something like that. And shots are easier to keep stable when you shoot wide to begin with. So the lens that's on my camera now is not the lens that was on my camera when I was outside. The lens that's on my camera right now is a much narrower focal length. It's a 35mm f1.8 from Sony. It's a very popular lens amongst YouTubers. Caleb Pike, Gerald Undone, Philip Bloom, a bunch of other YouTubers use it for their channels as well when they're doing this talking head thing. Not so much a vlogging lens, but sort of a lens that you would use in your studio. I can understand why, because it doesn't distort faces too much. It also gives enough visual context. What I mean about that is it's wide enough that it shows off a little bit of the background here. It's also close enough that I can reach the camera. It's an f1.8, which means I've got the flexibility of knocking out the background quite a bit. I've only got it set to about 2.8 because I want to show off a little bit of my background here, and you're able to read the logo back there. It's not the lens we're here to talk about. The lens we're here to talk about is the lens that I had on my camera while we were out there, my wide angle, and that is this lens right here. It's the Rokinon / Samyang. I've got the Samyang version. 18mm f2.8. It is an autofocus lens. A lot of those people out there who know Rokinon Samyang know that they haven't been making autofocus lenses too long. I think only about 5 or 6 years. Anyway, they did a great job with this, in my opinion. Some people have had some issues with these, hunting and stuff like that, from what I've heard, but I guess I got a pretty good copy. There are firmware updates you can do to this if you've got this special sort of base plate that you plug it into that you have to buy separately to do firmware updates. I haven't had to do that. My lens works great. I would actually recommend buying a used lens so you know if someone's had good experiences with their lens already. So someone's kind of tested it for you already. Kind of odd, I know. I'm clearly not sponsored by Samyang. Samyang doesn't want someone promoting people buying used lens, but I'm telling you, you might want to find a used copy of this from someone like me who's only had good experiences with their lens, because I've got a good copy here. Anyways, about this sort of semi-hard case that it comes in, it does protect the lens very well, but a lot of people, of course, wouldn't keep this on the lens. They would sort of chuck this into a drawer or whatever as soon as they get the lens and just stick the lens straight into their camera bag. I do keep it in this, and one of the reasons being the very light build of this lens. I'm saying the light build of this lens. I'm not saying the cheap build of this lens. And that could be one of the reasons this lens doesn't get a lot of attention, is because people are thinking cheap when they think light. Not necessarily the case. And of course, like I said earlier, light comes in really handy when you're doing gimbal work or when you're traveling. This is a great little lens to have on a camera like the A7C, or even some APS-C cameras, because of its lightweight. And I find that the advantages don't stop there with this lens. Now, some of the downsides of this lens hood is a piece of crap. It's thin and it's sharp, and when I mean sharp, like the edges of it are sharp, and they could have did a better job with this. It probably does something as far as the function it's supposed to, but they could have did a little bit better a job in making that. Another thing, Samyang Rokinon probably knows that people are going to use this as a landscape lens, being as wide as it is and as compact as it is. It has no weather sealing around it. That would have been fantastic for someone like me, because I'm going to be using it outside most of the time. Something I do like about this lens, though, as you know, a lot of wide-angle lenses have this very bulbous sort of element in the front that don't allow you to use regular filters. Well, this uses a standard 58mm filter on that thread there, which is amazing. Makes life a lot easier for landscape photographers especially. Astro is another thing that people use this lens for. I've seen some really cool results of people doing Astro with this lens. It's an f2.8, which is sort of on the borderline, like fast enough for Astro. It would be nice, of course, to have an f2 or 1.8, 1.4 or 1.2 even, of course. But it's not too bad at f2.8, especially because it's an 18mm. If you're following the 500 rule that one would when they're shooting Astro usually, what you do is you take 500 and divide it by your focal length, and that sort of roughly gives you the max length you should have your shutter open. I usually come in under that number just to make certain. I don't have a lot of Astro experience, but I will be using this for Astro on our upcoming trip to Iceland, so really looking forward to that, because I don't have a lot of experience doing Astro, and it's going to be really cool. Maybe getting even some of the northern lights, the auroras, when we're there. About the optical quality of this is tack sharp. I've seen some comparisons with this and the Zeiss Batis actually. The Zeiss Batis comparison was actually done by an astrophotographer, which is really cool, because critical focus is important when it comes to Astro, and it didn't quite perform like the Batis, but it came pretty close. And this is going to come in at a fraction of what the Zeiss Batis costs. Let me go into some examples of what I've done with this lens, and then later on I'm going to show you the results from that Catalyst Browse test as well. Alright, take a look at this. So those of you who saw my last episode might have caught a glimpse of this shot. It's from 6 Mile Lake Provincial Park when we went camping there recently. I thought that it worked out really well. I can't take credit for the composition. My girlfriend Marmar was out there with her iPhone, and she came back to our campsite and showed it to me, and I said, I have to go out and copy that shot with the real camera. It turns out that the shot actually she took with her iPhone was pretty nice. These phones are getting so good now. Anyway, though, you can see here that the water is pretty smooth. That's because I dragged the shutter with an ND on the camera. It wasn't quite dark enough to do the clouds, but I thought that it worked out quite well. Here are a couple clips from our trip to Montreal. I probably used the 18 more than any other lens on this one.
Let's go.
Anyway, let's go back to that little clip that I shot at the beginning of the episode to see how things worked out in Catalyst Browse. As you can see, I had to crop in quite a bit to get the stabilization I wanted, but perhaps in a pinch this would do. I am definitely going to be bringing the gimbal anyway to Iceland, and the camera will probably be on it most of the time for this sort of thing. But yeah, if I just feel like taking out the camera quickly and not bothering, I could probably get away with it if I'm a little bit more careful than I was this time. So hopefully I've provided further insight into what, in my opinion, is a fantastic lens. There are reviewers out there like Dustin Abbott and Christopher Frost who've said amazing things about this lens. And of course I know that there have been some negative reviews about the lens regarding the autofocus hunting. I haven't experienced any of those issues with my copy. Hopefully, if you go out and buy this lens, you'll have experiences as positive as mine. Now, maybe you were on the fence about buying the lens and this has helped you out, or maybe you've decided it's not for you. That's cool, but if you did like this video, please throw me a thumbs up. If not, that's okay too. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of these videos, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You don't have to do that either. I do appreciate the support, and it's nice to know that people out there want to watch these videos. If you've got any comments regarding maybe future show ideas, or you've got some experiences with this lens, please put those in the comments below. And until next time, please keep working to make your chosen idea a reality. All right then, peace.